All right. Welcome, everybody, if you're new to my channel. I kind of made an executive decision just because time is not something I have a lot of these days, it feels. And while I would love to continue doing the zodiac signs in terms of readings, I'm actually just going to switch to pick-a-piles for a while. Uh, that way, it also gives you guys kind of like this nice, interactive, fun way to engage with it yourself, right? To have a choice. So, with that being said, this is going to be pile one, and this is going to be pile two. Go ahead and reflect on whatever pile it is you would like to choose. You can either do it by candle color, or you can do it by deck or bowl, whichever one you'd like. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started with pile one. Cards ready. I don't know why, but these matches are the absolute worst. Okay. Oh, wow. Right. So I'm going to be honest. I posted a pick a pile a while back. If you were one of the people who selected pile two, this feels very, very similar in energy. Um, I find it interesting because I feel like a lot of you who chose this pile are actually very, very connected to your intuition right now. If intuition is not necessarily something that you jive with, maybe you are more religious in nature. Um, call it miracles, call it like divine intervention, call it prayers being answered, being way more in touch with like prayer, I guess we'll call it. However that looks, right? Doesn't have to be religious. Um, but it's really interesting because you can't really see it, which is quite unfortunate. Um, but a lot of what's happening here right now is the first thing that dropped quite literally looked like the image of an angel. And all of these flowers keep kind of like popping up in this water. And some of the flowers are moving to the edge, but a lot of them are just like congealing into a form with the angel itself. So I feel like a lot of you could be receiving some very important um, things in your life, things you've asked for, whether that is clarity, whether it is uh, um, a way through a particular situation. Maybe you have been hoping for certain things to happen in your life or really needing kind of like a, let's just call it what it is, like an answered prayer. Right? Something on a hope and a prayer. Um, it feels like you're seeing the answer to that. And I feel like the way that these things are being answered or tended to are happening quite rapidly. If you do not feel this way yet, you will. I'm just going to say that you will with with the most certainty. Okay? With the most certainty that I've had in some time. Um, let me just focus here for a minute. Yeah. Okay. For some of you, you could have really been losing hope around something, whether that is something you've been trying to create in your own life, whether it's connected to your career, life path, maybe it's a relationship, whatever it may be, right? Um, because when I was really focusing, I felt very emotional and I felt like I had been crying or like I wanted to cry or I was tired of crying and the wax started forming a heart. So I feel like there's something very meaningful to you that is connected to these prayers or connected to these hopes or connected to these desires. Um, and I feel like whatever you've been wishing for or hopeful for um, is literally coming to you. Like I feel like there are these connections that are being made, whether that is within things that you see that feel like they are talking to you. Uh, some folks out there know exactly what I mean when I say that. Others of you are like, what the fuck does that mean? Um, Sometimes there are just moments where you stop and it feels like something is directly speaking to you and it is out of the blue and it feels bizarre. And this is one of those things. This is what I'm talking about. But it feels like things are linking. Like it feels almost like having faith restored in something or having um, your heart recognize something in a way that it hasn't recognized it before, and it's like it's connecting the dots. Once again, I don't know if you can see this very well, but it's like this little chain of dots is leading right to this heart. And as this stuff is forming, it's like starting to really amass around it itself. Um, I also think for some of you, you're incredibly anxious around this because my heart kind of started beating really fast. Excuse me. Um, yeah, there's like some anxiety going on with this. And I don't quite know why. Like maybe it's anxiety at the idea of this pulling through. Maybe it's anxiety because you're not quite sure if you can trust it. Maybe it's anxiety because, oh yeah, we're starting to have some sediment pile up in here. Um, Maybe your fears are kind of tainting the experience. Very minimally though. I don't think this is like super intense. For some of you, this is like a third try with something because the number three is really significant here. Maybe there's something significant happening within the next 3 months or something you would like to happen. Maybe it's a time frame you have attached to something, but something feels like it's like third time's a charm, you know? Hmm. As annoying as this sounds, something about waiting is here. Like, I think some of you need to wait to see something. And I am getting like some crazy whispering noises. So for some of you, this could be around news that hasn't quite made it to you yet. Or maybe somebody's talking about something very quietly. Yeah, for some of you, this like whole whispering thing, I feel like this is a very, very minimal few of you. Um, this whispering thing is kind of like something that needs to come out. I feel like it needs to come out because I feel like not talking about it or not discussing it or not um, confronting it is kind of causing some discomfort. And I'm gonna back up for a minute. If I'm kind of looking at this entire reading from start to finish thus far, I know it doesn't seem like I've given a lot of information, but bottom line is I think that there's something happening here in regards to um, like coming into contact with something in a very spiritual way, whatever that means to you. You know, for some people, they don't really believe in much of anything other than the fact that they're like, yeah, you know, there's a greater thing that kind of links us all together. And we'll call it whatever it is, right? Like whether you want to look at it through the lens of quantum physics or science or uh, whether you're incredibly religious and you have a very particular religious path that you follow. Um, this is a very interesting spiritual experience that's happening, no matter what you want to call it, no matter how you want to perceive it, because it feels bizarre. And I think it feels bizarre in the way where um, your faith has recently been restored in something that it can feel quite magical. And I think that's why I'm using this whole like spiritual connection to it. Whatever this is, it feels quite magical because it feels as if um, something that means a lot to you, something that is very close to your heart, something that you have been thinking for a very long time about, is starting to blossom or starting to show up. I feel like there is a trickle effect here of things that are literally knocking on your door, or like I was saying, like thinking about something incredibly random and seeing something that correlates with it that's just kind of out of nowhere and it doesn't make any sense as to why it would be coming up. It's almost like there are things that are acting as these really significant um, dots, connecting the dots. This feels like a game of connecting the dots. Now, within that, I feel like as this stuff is showing up for you, there's kind of this need to shed any residual stuff that's holding you back from allowing whatever this is to come in or allowing whatever this is to fully show up in your world. And I think you've already been realizing that, and I think you've been processing that. I think that's why there's like this energy of like whispering a little bit. Like it's like I can feel like I can hear people whispering. It sounds like a bunch of people whispering, or it sounds like two to three people whispering, very discreetly. Um, but it's a lot of voices that are kind of doing it at once, and it just feels like there's kind of this thing that needs to be dealt with, whether it is a very secretive thing, whether it is a thing that just doesn't get talked about amongst people. Maybe there's a private issue going on at home. Maybe there's a private issue going on with yourself. Um, whatever it is, though, it feels like there's something about it that potentially can either um, tarnish the situation or get in the way of the situation, or it feels that way. Like that's what's weird. It's just it's almost like for some of you, I feel like you're scared of being perceived as being bad or being wrong or being like something being wrong with the direction that you're choosing to go in because of what it may entail, or because there may be particular bits of information that come out around the thing, or things that just may be made known that you feel could tarnish the experience in some way. You know, doesn't have to be for all of you, but it feels significant here because I keep getting this like interesting black uh, sediment that starts kind of like going around this heart. And to me, that can be feelings of guilt. It can be feelings of shame, shame around yourself or shame around the experience. Maybe there's some residual anger you're dealing with. But no matter the case, this is a very beautiful pile. That's why I was like, this feels very similar to pile two from the first candle wax reading that I did about a month or two ago, and it just feels very significant to connect these two because there's something very beautiful happening here. But I also feel like there is a lot of emotions that are coming out of this experience. Like I feel like there is this emotional recognition of something, and the heart really opening up in a very interesting way. And it's almost like having to process two things at the same time, like feeling this immense amount of love and this immense amount of pain all at once. And maybe that's why you have things showing up for you that are trying to be like, hey, it's okay. Like if you go in this direction, it's okay. Or um, if you go after what this feeling is, it's okay because you're supposed to. You know, like it's almost like stop denying your feelings. Stop denying your feelings, or stop denying your heart, or stop denying what it is that you're feeling within this situation, or whatever it is that you are experiencing in this situation. Um, and the dots are lining up. You know, the dots are lining up. And I'll be very clear about this. When the dots are lining up, this isn't like, oh, if I see a tree today, it's connecting to it. Nah, dude. Like it's gonna be weird stuff. It's gonna be very bizarre things that don't make any sense. So let's go ahead and confirm whatever this message is. These cards. For some of you, yeah, look at that. This is totally a reading ruling the heart. And I think this is totally a reading about processing two things at the same time. Look at that. So, um, let's see what Wax got on here. Yeah, 3 months. I kind of love this. It's literally like the letter 3. Let's get that off. Don't allow the way that you feel to slow you down, because the chariot is all about forward movement. It is about making a decision. It is about having to bring opposing things into balance. And I think that's what's going on. That's what I'm talking about in this reading. You're dealing with two things at the same time, or you're dealing with two feelings at the same time, or you're dealing with this feeling of like these opposing energies or forces, like great love and great pain, right? Um, and it feels like there's a very particular decision that one has been like struggling around making. Or there's a very particular direction that you're wanting to go within your life if it's with your career. Like, that's the fascinating thing about the Lover's card is so many people connect it to relationships, which it is, right? Like it is a quintessential relationship card. But it's also a card that denotes uh, processing these very monumental moments in our lives where we are brought together with something that feels as if it is a part of our destiny. And it requires us making a choice. And we can either make a choice to evolve and connect to, we'll say, the deepest part of our soul that is kind of answering to this particular call of this path that we're meant to evolve and follow in our life. Like, talk about soul stuff. Um, because it's our destiny. Like it's very much so connected to themes of like the North Node, which can involve South Node stuff too, right? Like the South Node stuff is past life relationships, and they can be a part of your North Node trajectory. Often they are. Um, so this just feels like something is calling you and something is giving you this interesting roadmap to follow. And for some of you, I think you've been denying this roadmap for some time. I think that there is a very deep feeling that's come to the surface um, that is reconnecting you to either your faith in something, something greater than you, for sure. Yeah. For many of you, this literally feels like you guys getting in touch with the deepest parts of your soul. Like, I feel like you were trying to fight it off for a really long time, or you were trying to fight off this direction, or you were trying to fight off whatever going in this direction involves, because I do think it's challenging. But at the same time, I feel like there's this energy coming through where it's like, ask and ye shall receive, right? Ask and ye shall receive. However, in receiving those things, it's going to make you confront and face this energy of pain, which is what I was saying, where I was like, man, for some of you, I feel like there's a lot of crying involved in this, or I feel like there's a lot of emotional stuff that's coming up that you're needing to process or you're needing to move through in order to continue receiving what this stuff is. Like, I almost feel like um, someone finally recognizing all of the pain that they've been through because they're receiving such beautiful things in their life. And they're kind of like, wow, this having this experience is healing me. Having this experience and having these things show up in the way that they are is truly healing me, right? It's healing me, but it's also helping me see with clarity so that I can make very particular decisions about what direction I need to go in. Yeah, man. Something's changing. I think your life is really changing, and I think your life is really moving in a direction that you didn't quite anticipate. I think that there are a lot of things that are showing up right now, once again, that are pretty bizarre. But I also think it comes at a very interesting cost with the King of Cups and the Five of Swords. You know, I feel like I think you're gonna be dealing with some emotional stuff. I think it's either you dealing with it with another person. Maybe the choices that you're going to be making are going to be challenging, and it's going to kind of cause people to have very particular things to say to you, or issues or problems with the choices that you're making, or maybe they're not quite understanding why you're making the choices that you're making, and they want you to explain it to them a million times in a row. Or just picking a fight. Let's call it what it is. Or just picking a fight, because that's what the Five of Swords can be about too. So just do what is best for you, because I really don't think you can ignore this anymore. Like, I feel like you've been in that position for a very long time, and I don't think you can ignore this anymore. Yeah. Justice is stepping in to help you see clearly. You've been trying to figure it out for a long time with that Two of Pentacles, and Justice is going to come in, and it's going to help you make a decision. It is going to help you make a decision. So I'm going to go ahead and say that if you've got some issues with being afraid of something or being fearful of something, I think you're going to be pushed to address those fears because it's time to let go. It is time to let go. You have been carrying the weight of some things for a very long time. In certain ways, it feels like you've been carrying it all on your own. And I think that doing that has made you feel very confused for some time too. But no more of that because it is about to be go time. And I think that you're going to be making some pretty swift decisions. I think a lot of stuff is going to be happening. I think you're going to have things lining up for you that are almost going to be like, hey, we support this. If you keep going in this direction, we support this. Or if you keep going in this direction, you are supported by something greater than yourself. So please receive, okay? Let me see what this is over here. For some of you, this could potentially involve overseas stuff too, because I'm seeing like this little boat. So maybe there's a trip overseas, maybe there's a contract that's involving someone overseas. Maybe there's an opportunity that's involving something overseas, whether that is short term or long term. But I do think that there's something significant about that in regards to some choices that you have to make. Maybe making those choices are going to disappoint somebody in your life, or maybe it's going to cause some problems because it's going to require you to go away for a while, or it's going to require you to uh, um, not be as present. Maybe that could cause some problems. But once again, based upon everything else, I think that there are just things happening in your life to help clear some stuff out regardless. We've still got some interesting, like, angelic stuff in here. It's really weird. Okay. Well, that is it for you, pile one. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That was actually much longer than I anticipated it being. So thank you for being here. And now we are going to move on to pile two. Let's get into it. Pile two, I hope you're doing okay. Hmm. Okay. Pile two, some of you might have a deceased dog. My condolences, by the way. Or a passed over dog. It kind of has like a look of a bit of a farm animal too. But I just saw the face very significantly. But I almost want to be like, whether or not you're aware of this, that animal is still kind of like very present in your life, watching over you in some way, because the wax that landed above it looks freakishly like an eye, like a very ornate eye. It almost looks realistic, and it's kind of creeping me out, but it's not creepy. It's just fascinating that that's how it's showing up. So for some of you, that's a significant message that you needed to hear right now in this moment. But let's move on to what else is showing up here. For others of you, the symbol of the moon is very significant right now. Maybe this is my pile that does like active manifestation work in that way. I feel like this is also a pile that has a lot of like different projects going on. Like it's like there's two to well not two to three, almost like three to four different areas of your life that you're having to tend to at this time. But it seems very slow going. Like it feels like everything is kind of everything gets put on pause to like deal with the other things. So it just feels like there's a lot going on within that. I do feel like there's a way more energy in one of these things than everything else, though, which is good because I feel like there's like a solid support system being built in that space. And I almost want to encourage you to continue working with what you feel supported in. I mean, common sense, right? But sometimes that's not that easy. I just feel like there's a lot more support coming in for you. Be honest, pile two. This is kind of like a weird. This is a very quiet energy to me. Like I'm not really getting a lot off of this. And maybe that's how you feel in life right now. Maybe you feel like you're not really getting a lot out of what's in front of you. Maybe that's attached to this like slower moving energy, or maybe you feel like you're just like waiting because this energy does feel like it's this constant like pause, right? Like, okay, I'm going to go over here and do one thing, then pause, and then nothing happens for a really long time. And then I have to go over here and do this other thing, and then pause, and then nothing happens for a very long time. But when you are in movement and having to focus on one thing or the other, right? Like there's energy moving within it. It just it's it feels really weird. I feel like the next 7 months are really significant around this. Like I feel like whatever you've been building in this thing over here that's gaining more traction or gaining more support, I think in the next 7 months you're going to see a very significant energy shift around that. Um, Whether that has to do with career, whether it has to do with family life, there seems to be something more solid and more stable being set up. So maybe for some of you, you're quite literally building something. Maybe you're building a business, maybe you're building a home, maybe you're building a game plan. Um, and that's involving some form of collaboration. And you're really going to start seeing the results of that within the next 7 months. Oof, oof, oof. Mm-mm. Um, for some of you, I really want to just say to chill. Because even though so much of this feels so quiet, I feel like there's like screaming inside. That's why I just kind of like shook because it's like I heard this like huge scream. Um, it's okay to get frustrated with the lack of what you deem the lack of progress, right? Like it's okay to get frustrated with feeling like something isn't really shaping up in the way that you would like it to. I really don't want you to stuff that down though. Now is not the time to be quiet, I must say. I really want you to be in a space or try to find a way um, to connect with a support system in order to process what it is that you're thinking or feeling. Because I think there's some stuff going on here that just, this is my pile that I think really holds it together for everything and everyone. And I think it's okay for you to talk to somebody if you need to. Because I think this is getting to one of those points where it's like you're kind of doing it all, and I think it's getting hard to do it all. I think you're more than capable of doing it, but or continuing to do it, I must say. Um, but I think the point is that like you shouldn't have to. I think you've been doing it for a very, very, very long time, and I think you're just getting that to that point where it is time to lovingly draw some boundaries in your life. And however people want to respond to that, they can respond to that. Because I do think you got a big heart, and I do think you give a lot of yourself. Hmm. This is definitely my quiet place pile. I don't know if it's just like the brain shutting off for the sake of self preservation or feeling like you're getting to that point where you're kind of just disconnecting mentally in order to make it through the last leg of whatever this feels like or whatever this is. But um, quiet time is needed in your near future for sure. Talking to somebody is needed in your future or in your near future for sure. While I think there's a lot to be excited about in the coming months, I also think there's a need to like make sure that you are really connected to yourself and how you feel with everything right now, so that you can continue to devote your time and energy in the way that you need to these particular things in your life that are going to really be taking off, right? Like there's going to be some significant things around growth or around, um, whoa, what is that? Huh. Yeah, it's almost like for some of you, I feel like you've been going through a drought and you're about to have like a full on rainy season, but obviously metaphorically. Like I feel like this is I'm sure some of you would love to add like some sexual connotation to that. Sure, go for it. But this definitely feels way more money oriented. This feels more financially oriented. This feels more like a season of support or a season of like getting what it is that you need. But at the same time, I feel like there's still a need to like keep in mind of what you need to do because droughts do happen. And I think you almost need to prepare for any sort of future situations. We'll say potential future, right? I'm not saying to like stow absolutely everything away, but I am saying to remain in gratitude for what it is that you receive and work with what you receive appropriately. do not know why I am hearing Erica Badu in my head right now. Well, Bag Lady is playing in my head. Once again, let's go ahead and connect that to the fact that this is definitely my workaholics pile, where this is my pile of people who really are trying to get to the finish line. But like I said, I really need some of you to, yeah, make sure you kind of unload or find that support system to kind of let it all out. Even if it's not talking to somebody, even if it's going to the gym, even if it's finding a way to have a physical outlet, um, there's kind of this need to do something where you can process that. Otherwise, there's going to be some, like, I feel like the way that it becomes combustible or the way that it ends up coming out is less than great. So I think there's even if it's like physical stuff, right? Even if it's physical health. I just want this pile to be very aware of that and maybe learn how to I don't want to say manage things better, but I think I want to say like maybe be okay with not doing it all. Finding a different way. Maybe it's more about finding new ways to do all the things. Because I think some of this stuff is like it's like making a mountain out of a molehill. Or like sweeping stuff under the rug until there's a fucking mound in your living room. Yeah, this is my stress pile. Yeah, I feel like things are just taking much longer than you'd like. I think you've got some stuff going on right now that's kind of causing a lot of stress. I think it feels like things are very stuck. I think it feels like things are very in limbo. I think you're physically very tired. I think you're mentally very tired. I think you keep trying to figure out what the solution is going to be. For some of you too, I also feel like you keep looking for the solution in the same place that is disappointing you, or you keep looking for the solution in the same exact space that is giving you the same thing, right? Like you keep going back thinking that it's going to change, or you keep going back thinking that it is that finally, right? Like finally, this is the cut that's you're gonna be blessed with, and it's gonna give you what it is that you need. Now, in saying that, I feel like the important thing to remember about that card in particular is that even though it is a card of kind of dealing with not seeing what's being given to you, or feeling disappointed at what's being given to you, because it's usually very similar. It also is about approaching what it is that we truly need in a different way, right? Approaching what it is that we do with what is in front of us in a very different way. Sometimes I feel like this is the card of acknowledging when something isn't working anymore, or acknowledging when something is not doing it for us anymore, which then leads into the Five of Cups, which is like the grieving process, right? Because we're having to let it go, or we're having to let go of maybe the way we dealt with the situation, or maybe the way that we handled our choices within that situation. So for some of you, I feel like that's incredibly relevant to this like weight that you're carrying, or this baggage that you're carrying, or feeling very slowed down, or feeling very stuck in your life right now, because I think you're still processing a lot of things. Um, in saying that, when I am talking about these things, please do not freak out and think that this is just the way your life is destined to be, because that's not the case. For this pile in particular, I feel like things are going to be evolving and drastically changing for you in the next 7 months. Um, I think that you are going to be able to achieve a very particular level of stability that you have not had in some time. However, I do think that that is going to require you to draw very particular boundaries with people. You could lose people as a result of that. Um, for some of you, I'm sure you're like, man, I've done this already. This is, why do I have to keep doing this? Yeah, it's just a process, right? Like, it's just fine tuning, right? Like, I think the more and more we do something and we work with something, the more that we try to really understand how to fine tune the process of what those boundaries look like. And sometimes we ease up on it and people still don't like it. But then again, like, it kind of shows you what people were around for to begin with. So, you may be going backwards into some difficult waters or difficult territory, or you may be going through a very challenging period or re-entering into a difficult period. But I feel like you're doing that in order to face something and kind of see something for what it is, because it's time to either let it go or it's time to make a change within whatever is happening in that situation. Because whatever you've been holding on to, we've already got 2 fours here. Whatever you've been holding on to, I think you have had this, and another 4. I think you have had this idea that it is very stabilizing for you, or that it's something that's actually something that you need, and I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think that's like part of the mental prison, and I think that's part of the exhaustion, is that you keep telling yourself that you need whatever this is, that you need this for stability, or that you need this to have a happy life, and that's not true with the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. Like, I feel like you're not getting what you need in this situation at all. Like, to me, it almost feels like somebody keeps racking up a debt with you, or um, somebody keeps racking up what they owe here. So for whatever that means for you guys, whether that is literal credit card debt, maybe it's being tied to somebody who's incredibly codependent, or maybe you're both codependent on each other for whatever reason. It's just, there's some unhealthy, very unequal issues here. And I think that there's been this period of contemplation. There's been this period of seeing that if you can revive something. There's been this period of holding on to it for the sake of stability, or holding on to it for the sake of trying to get it back on solid footing. But the truth of the matter is that you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to confront this energy that you've been thinking about, and it's going to cause issues, because it's going to cause the Five of Swords. It's going to cause challenging, we'll say, opposing behavior. It's going to cause some arguments. It's going to cause some fights. It's going to cause some form of pain, and this is going to come quite suddenly with the Tower. This might have to do with something with the past and the Six of Cups. Two of Pentacles in reverse. High Priestess in reverse. Queen of Pentacles in reverse. What the fuck? Yeah. Okay. The reason why things haven't been moving is because you've been really slowed down, because there's been a lot going on in your mind within whatever is going on in the situation. I think you've been working on your stability. I think you've been working on building something, or you've been working on repairing something. However, you've been doing this with multiple things. Like, I think you've been doing this in multiple areas of your life. And there's something in your life that is going to be taking off in a very particular way, or there's going to be more energy in it. There's going to be more support. There's going to be more that it's going to be like accumulating, right? Like, there's going to be more stuff coming in, and it's going to set you up in a way to make a very particular decision that you've needed to make for some time. I think you've put this off for a really long time. For some of you, this is quitting a job. For others of you, this is like transitioning workspaces. For some of you, this is ending a relationship. For some of you, this is dealing with some intense family stuff. But there's very interesting lines that need to be drawn in the sand, because somebody's kind of like bending over backwards and killing themselves for what, is my question. Because I don't like the debt thing that I see racking up here. There's debt being racked up. Tons of it. And it almost feels like there's one person who is contributing way more to this debt than they are helping fix it. So like something needs to change here. For some of you, there's some very particular information that's going to be coming to light that's going to make this decision way easier, especially if you continue to postpone it or you continue to not make the decision. Yeah, it's going to be made for you anyway. Because it's time to get unstuck. That's the perfect thing, right? It's time to get unstuck. I think that's the, um, fuck me for presenting it this way, but I think that is the joy of um, moments like this that we don't see in the moment is the joy of getting unstuck. When we refuse to make a decision or when we refuse to make a change, it will be made for us eventually. So for this pile, I want you to keep focusing on what is in support of you at this time. I want you to find support if you need it. If you need to decompress or find a way to release your stress, I would love for you to do that. I think you're going to be cleaning some stuff up. I think you're going to be choosing to not carry the burden on your own any longer. And whatever you have to clean up or get rid of in order to do that, I think you're going to be doing that. And I think your life is going to feel a lot lighter. And I actually think that the stability that you're working on for yourself, I want to say that first, for yourself, this is just for you. I think the stability that you're working on is going to set up really nicely for you. I think you're going to have a lot of support, and I think you are going to have a very healthy rainfall as a result. So make sure that you don't just use all that water immediately. Make sure you save some up because I think it's going to be necessary for what comes in the future. So thank you for joining me. If any of this resonated for you, you can either comment down below or subscribe to my channel if you'd like. I will try to post a couple of these a month. I will probably switch back and forth between just regular card pick piles to candle wax readings, seeing how the traction goes with them or if people enjoy them or not. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.